Morning, everyone. Welcome to the path to 1 million. This will be episode 105. And here we go. A handful of years ago, I was working with a marketing company. And I'll admit that marketing for me has always been this like nebulous fantasy type world. I never really understood what it was. I've always been the type of guy that if you can't hit it with a hammer, then I don't understand it. Marketing to me was always nebulous. And I started working with this marketing company to help me out as far as being able to connect with people online, get potential leads online, do potential sales online. And I was working with them. And, these guys came across as, we have this complete package. We can get you all these customers. We can get you all these leads. And I remember that at that particular time that the business I was in, competition was pretty fierce, like very fierce. And so I was looking at alternative ways to be able to generate money. And a lot of the tactics and strategies that a lot of my competitors were using involved door knocks. There was a lot of deception that was involved with it. And so I just kind of said, that's really not for me. I want to pursue other paths. And to me, social media is like an untapped territory. Everybody's on social media. It's just how do you connect with these people on there? How do you build relationships with people that were on there? And I knew that had to do with marketing, but I really didn't understand what marketing was. So I'd been watching a number of videos. Thanks, Chris, for the like. I've been watching like a number of videos online trying to figure out what marketing was and listening to these marketing experts that were on there and social media experts. And that's how I came across Gary Vaynerchuk. If you don't know who he is, you should check him out. He's really good. I love his story. I love his shtick. But Gary Vaynerchuk is a great guy. He's built a very successful business. He understands marketing and social media in a way that I think just blows everybody away. But what he says actually makes sense. And so, listening to him, listening to, what he talks about on there. At the time when I was doing this, I don't hear it so much these days, but at that time, the key phrase that I kept hearing people say all the time is that you need to add value, right? This is all the phrase that they would always say. You need to add value. And I never understood what that was. And I thought, well, maybe adding value is education. Maybe adding value is, sharing with people how the process works or anything else like that. And so, I started doing some investigating in it and come to find out with the advent of the internet, everything, and I mean everything that you would ever want to do is available online. For crying out loud, the bearings in the back of my car was shot, and I went over to my buddy's house and he had downloaded the instructions on how to change the bearings on the car. It's very few stuff, if anything, out there, unless you're top secret classified in that area there. But most anything that you want to do is available online. I can't even begin to tell you the number of times that I have fixed stuff in my house. Or like the other day, I was talking with my contractor, right? And I made a comment about replacing one of the travertine tiles in my house. And he goes, why replace them when you can just fix it? Never even occurred to me. So I go to YouTube and I type in how to fix cracked travertine tile. Boom, there's a video. It's like 2 minutes long, shows me how to do it. So, anyways, I was really struggling with what the concept of value actually meant. Oh, you gotta add value, you gotta add value, you gotta add value. And we're talking with this marketing company, and of course, they're on there and they're telling me, you got to add value. I didn't know what the hell that was. So they're telling me, well, produce a video or produce this, and talk about this. And I was. And it wasn't gaining me any traction whatsoever with people. Like none. I wasn't getting any leads. I wasn't getting any more business through the door. And I couldn't help but to think for myself that, it's not necessarily the marketing company that's failing. It's myself that's failing because I'm missing a connection somewhere. I just simply don't get it. So I'm starting to pose the question now. Every single time that they say, Cliff, you have to add value, I would look at them and I'm like, what the hell's value? And actually what they came back with is they said, well, if you really want to get leads, if you really want to do this, then you have to offer your services at a discount. And you can call that discount whatever you want to call it, but you have to offer it at a discount. Probably $500, maybe $1,000. And I started scratching my head because I wondered how in the world can you add value to somebody by discounting your prices? That whole thing to me was an absolute mystery. Of course, I'm reading an article in a magazine, and Sir Richard Branson, who created the Virgin Group, Virgin Airlines, he's created all of these businesses out there. He said something that really, really struck me. And he said, if you have a product or service, and if you cannot differentiate yourself in the marketplace, then you become a commodity. The only way that you can compete if you're a commodity is on price, which is exactly what this marketing company was telling me to do. They were telling me to compete on price. All these other people that were out there and competing or whatever, and I would tell people, oh yeah, well, if you use me, I can give you a $1,000 discount. But you know what? Somebody else out there is willing to give them a $1,500 discount. Somebody else is willing to give a $2,000 discount, which is exactly what you're seeing in the marketplace now. Needless to say, I didn't continue my relationship with that marketing company. Not because they're bad people. I think they're a great group of guys. I think that they've got like a very good, solid product. I think they've got a good, solid service. They actually have customers out there that are very happy with what's going on and what they're doing, and they're actually getting business from it. And I salute their success. For me in my marketplace, it wasn't working, because the one thing is when I joined this secondary marketing group, it was because the leader of the group, Ryan Fletcher, said something that I thought was very interesting, and that was, it depends on the value and the content of your character. Not only the content of your character, but you got to craft a story. And through story, you build relationships. And then all of a sudden, all the marketing stuff started to make sense. Because really then I started looking at marketing as nothing more than a way to be able to build relationships at scale. So by publishing an origin story, by putting my story out there, by sharing stories out there with people, the differentiation now comes down to me. Because really, if you think at it at any day, and I'm researching this, I'm going to talk about this in another video, but if you have a product or service out there, you're basically already a commodity. If you're an employee out there, right, whether you sit at a desk all day or whether you're working in the field or whatever it is, if you quit that job, somebody else will take your job. There's always somebody else out there to replace you. You're not completely irreplaceable. And I'm not saying that to be depressing in the environment, not at all. But once you start to understand that, it boils down to the difference of your character. That's what makes you you, and that's what makes you special. And then when you go in and you either interview for that job, or you're trying to get a potential client, or you're trying to close business, or whatever it is the value of your character that's going to define whether that deal closes or not. Because the old axiom holds true. If people know you, like you, and trust you. And on the internet, it's super easy to get people to know you if you're sharing stories, if you're communicating in a way that's going to connect with other people who believe as you believe. And that, to me, is successful marketing. That is how you build a business. That is how you can grow a nonprofit. That's how you can go out and find other jobs. That's why I share these stories online. Build relationships at scale. Anyways, just wanted to share that with you today. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Today is Saturday. Things are going really well. Very happy about that. So anyways, thanks for stopping by. Thanks, Brad, Susan, Chris. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. And I will be back again tomorrow with another story. I'll see you then. Have a good night. Or having a good day, actually.